Hey everybody, this is Ryan McClanahan with historythroughcards.com. Hope you're all doing very well today. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the life, career, and cards of Sam Hardy. He is in the Football League 100 Legends list, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. I suspect he will get there at some point. The Hall of Fame is kind of really slow to get a lot of these guys in, and there are a lot of Hall of Famers on this particular list, but there are also guys who are not in the Hall of Fame on this list as well, and he is one of them. This is a 1922 F&J Smith's Football Club Records. I've actually never seen one of these cards before, and I think I've told you guys in the past, like, you really don't see a lot of soccer cards or football cards or cricket cards at shows. I think the first time I actually saw a few was at the 2022 National, and it just kind of like blew my mind as to what was there, in fact. So I hope if you guys go to the National this year, let me know how it is afterwards, because unfortunately I won't be able to go. I'm going to go to the 2025 National, but I'd love to hear what you guys see there, and if you see any cricket cards or soccer cards or football cards, let me know, because unfortunately I'm going to miss it. But I really saw some very interesting cards at the National in 2022, and soccer and cricket cards were among them. Um, you know what they always say about the National too, is that if it's not there, it probably doesn't exist. Well, that's true to a certain extent, because these cards do exist, but I don't think you're going to see them at the National. I could be wrong. Getting back to this, I'll show you the back of this if you haven't seen what these things look like. Very, really interesting. Sorry, the camera's really blurry. It hates sports cards. What I thought was really interesting when I was looking at the back of this, it says issued by the Imperial Tobacco Company. F&J Smith's in 1920 may have been an independent company. There are actors and actresses cards or cinema cards from 1920, and they look a lot like this particular card. At least the front does. So there's not a whole lot there. A lot of people actually say that these cards may have actually been issued in 1917 or 1916, probably 1916, because one of the players in this set said he was killed in action in World War One. Now, 1916 is not 1922, obviously. Why they would have a card issued for a guy who was killed in action in 1916 and issue him a card from 1922, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's just a very long period of time, or long expanse of time, to have a card issue of a guy who's passed away. But it could have been a tribute card. We just don't know, because there's nothing really on the back that says who these players are. So today, I thought I'd find an article for you guys, read it, and see who Sam Hardy really was, how great of a goalie he was. And, one of the other things too about my adventures in cricket cards or soccer cards, or, football cards, if you will, is that I don't know everything that's out there. I don't know what player has what cards. And because it's across the pond, if you will, that makes it more all that exciting, because it's like the thrill of the hunt. And I think that's one of the things that collectors really enjoy, is the thrill of the hunt, because like we haven't seen everything, and this is just a different addition to the hobby, really. There's not a whole lot of soccer cards in the hobby here in America. And one thing too is, uh, a lot of people say that cards from Great Britain are not rare, or they're not valuable. Well, here they're getting to be a little bit on the pricier side when you can find them. He was not that expensive, but I did have to go overseas, or find a dealer overseas, to pick up this particular card, as well as a lot of other cards from Great Britain, because they're just not here. And so I thought this would be a great introduction for you guys if you wanted to pick up a few stars or maybe even Hall of Famers, early cards of soccer players or football players or even cricket players as well. Today, I'm just going to go through some articles, or just one article that I found of him, just going through his entire career, and I'll get back to you on the flip side. Here we go. This is from ifchistory.net. Player profile of Sam Hardy. Hardy, I consider the finest goalkeeper I played against. By uncanny anticipation and wonderful positional sense, he seemed to act like a magnet to the ball. I never saw him dive full length to make a save. He advanced a yard or two and so narrowed the shooting angle that forwards usually sent the ball straight at him. Legendary player and later co-founder of the Football Writers Association, Charlie Buchan had plenty of praise for Hardy's abilities. Born a miner's son in a house on Highfield Lane, Sam first came to Chesterfield's attention as a member of the Newbold White Star side that beat their reserves in the 1902 Byron Cup final. Legend has it that when manager Jack Hoskin was tipped off about Derby's reported interest in him, he rushed to sign Hardy, finally getting the man's signature under a lamppost in Newbold, but not until Hardy had forced Hoskin to increase his offer of 5 shillings a week to 18 shillings. His on-field performance reflected his character off it, for he was an even-tempered, down-to-earth man. Considering his great talents, it was only a matter of time before he moved to a bigger club. Liverpool put 6 past Sam Hardy while he was in goal for Chesterfield in January 1905, but remembered that, but for Hardy, it would have been closer to 20 on the day. Accordingly, 4 months later, the Reds came in with an offer of £300, and the 22-year-old Hardy was on his way to greatness after keeping 30 clean sheets in 71 league appearances for Chesterfield. The friendly never took place, and Liverpool topped the fee up with another £40. Hardy replaced Ned Doig, who had been the club's main keeper for the opening 8 fixtures of the 1905-1906 season. Liverpool had been struggling for consistency until that point, but Hardy's debut saw Forest beaten 4-1, and the Reds went on a terrific run, beating Middlesbrough 5-1, conquering champions Newcastle at St James Park 3-2, and first place Aston Villa were buried 3-0 at Anfield. Hardy serving a penalty for William Garrity. After only 4 games for the first team, the joint Everton-Liverpool program afforded Hardy the following praise. Quote, judging from the cool yet effective methods which he adopts in clearing his goal, we feel pretty assured in prognosticating a successful future for this young player. He is fearless in stopping a rush and remarkably agile in covering the goal space, and is equally at home with both high and low shots. When his first grueling afternoon comes, we trust Hardy will show himself a master of his craft. Unquote. After winning 9 out of 10 games, Liverpool were top of the table at Christmas, 1 point ahead of Aston Villa, and with a game in hand, Hardy and his strong defense kept 4 clean sheets. Liverpool didn't falter and finished 4 points ahead of Preston. Liverpool had won the league championship for the first time in Hardy's first season. 10-year-old by the name of Walter Dutton was so impressed by Hardy's performances in goal that he put together a little poem for publication in the Liverpool Football Echo in April 1906, and it goes something like this. I know a good goalie called Hardy, and when the ball comes, he's not tardy. He belongs to the pool, and he's been to school. He's that jolly good goalie called Hardy. Walter was not the only youth in Liverpool whose imagination Hardy had captured, as T. Ellis's story records in the same issue as the poem above. Quote, while walking through one of our parks the other day, I met a youngster about the age of 3, walking along by his father's side. "Hey, Daddy," he said, "there's Hardy." "Where and what Hardy?" asked the parent. "There he is, Daddy, him as keeps goal for the Reds." The father looked, and I looked in the direction indicated by the youngster's pointed finger, and there stood, between two piles of coats and caps, a ragged barefoot lad about 10, engaged might and main in resisting the earnest attempts of the lads to force a penny soft india-rubber ball between the said piles of coats and caps. "This is true." Unquote. Looking through old copies of Liverpool Echo, some curious facts about Hardy can be found. He was a smoker. There's a description of him after a game, Silent Sam, enjoying his cigarette whilst having his after the match bath at Anfield, is a picture of contentment. When Hardy was missing from Liverpool's starting lineup against Blackburn on 10 September 1910, he was in the stands smoking away. On 17 April 1911, Hardy got his much-deserved benefit game when Liverpool faced Woolwich Arsenal at Anfield. The club and the Anfield crowd showed Hardy their appreciation. 20,000 throats cheering the silent custodian to the echo. The band departed discourteously, and the rival captains took the centre, Hardy proving fortunate with the coin, at which the generous crowd cheered again. Hardy was firmly first choice at Anfield for 7 years, until the 30-year-old was replaced by Scotsman Ken Campbell, 10 years his junior, at the end of the 1911-1912 season. Manager Tom Watson was clearly not afraid of putting his faith in his keepers while they were young. The Echo agreed with the management. The change has been beneficial for the club, for whereas Hardy was beginning to show signs of inability to get a shot with the electric speed that made him famous. Incidentally, Hardy's last game for Liverpool was on 6 April 1912 against Aston Villa. Campbell's success and Hardy's denial to move into the city of Liverpool signals the end of his Reds career. 2 months later, he joined the Villains, who paid £1,500 to Liverpool. Following his move, Liverpool's board said they were going to insist in future that their players should reside in the district, as in his debut season at Liverpool, Hardy was victorious in his first season with Villa. Villa won Sugarland 1-0 in the 1913 FA Cup final. Villa finished 4 points behind Sunderland in second place, but Liverpool, with Ken Campbell in goal, finished a disappointing 12th. The following season, Hardy suffered FA Cup heartache at the hands of his former team. Villa played Liverpool in the 1914 semi-final, and Jimmy Nicholl scored 2 goals past Hardy. Liverpool had finally reached the final but lost 1-0 to Burnley. Hardy won a second FA Cup winners' medal in 1920 when Villa beat Huddersfield 1-0, but a year later he was on the move again after 183 games for the Villains. Hardy further cemented his reputation as a conqueror of penalty takers in September, November, and December of 1906 by saying 3 penalties from Everton, Newcastle, and Sheffield United. In 1921, he took over the pub Gardener's Arms on Glomgate in Chesterfield. His return to town fueled fierce speculation that Chesterfield were going to sign him for their impending return to the Football League, but Villa, who had upset the player by insisting that he travel every day to Birmingham to train, were not taken by Chesterfield's suggestion that a free transfer might be fitting reward for his services. Villa got £1,000 from Nottingham Forest for him as the season started, which was a gamble considering Hardy was a few days short of his 39th birthday. Of course, Hardy became a key member of Forest's team, helping them to promotion to the first division in the first season. He paid scrupulous attention to his fitness, which allowed him to keep playing in top flight until just before his 43rd birthday, in an era when most players were clapped out at 30. Hardy played 109 games for Forest before retiring in May 1925. He played 551 league games in 22 years and would have played many more if World War I had not intervened, where he served in the Navy. He won one championship medal and two FA Cup winners' medals in his brilliant career. Safe and Steady Sam was one of the outstanding English goalkeepers of his time. He made 21 England appearances between 1907 and 1920, at a time when England usually played only 3 games a season and the nation went to war for 4 years. Any keeper enjoying a 14-year spell as his country's first choice at the end of the 20th century would have earned around 140 caps, knocking Peter Shilton's record easily off its perch. Hardy won his last and 21st international cap for England against Scotland on 10 April 1920. England beat the Scots 5-4. I liked Ray Clements, but he wasn't as good as goalkeeper Sam Hardy. Bob Evans, a Liverpool fan of 76 years in the 1983 Liverpool Annual. Sam Hardy was a man of strong principles and was aware of the good that a man of his profile could do towards improving a lot of his fellow professionals. Accordingly, he became a prominent member of the PFA. Hardy was also a hotelier in Chesterfield and ran his own billiard hall in Alfreton in Derbyshire. Sam died in Chesterfield on 24 October 1966. If I can remember when I was a kid going to a card shop and seeing a lot of cards and players that I may actually never have seen before, specifically when I walked into a shop and saw a bunch of T205s, T206s, 1951 tops. A lot of those guys, I didn't know who they were. I wanted to find out more about the cards. And in this case, it's something kind of new, even though I've been in the hobby now, with the vintage side of the hobby for 30 years. There's always something new to find. And I've kind of told you guys in one of my last videos uh, that cricket has been a really great reprieve for me because I really kind of wanted to get into other sports, and soccer is really the same thing for me, just to try to find out who these guys are and if they have cards, what do they have for cards, and are they affordable? Are they rare? What is rare? These are all questions that I still am trying to find answers to and try to locate these things. And it's been a great challenge. It's a good challenge. But sometimes when you're collecting a lot of the cricket cards and soccer cards or football cards like this, um, trying to find out if it's actually worth your time to buy and sell this stuff, it can be really challenging. And that's a question I don't have an answer to. It's only something that you can try to figure out for yourself. For me, I'm not doing this for the money. I'm really doing this because it is a challenge in trying to acquire some of these cards and then try to find out again who some of these players were and their careers and the stats as well. Uh, Soccer is a little bit easier to figure out the stats for than cricket is. But in both cases, cricket and especially soccer or football is one of the biggest sports in the world. And the uh, the thing is that you can find a lot of these cards for a fraction of the price compared to the baseball players from the same era. So again, this is like 1921, 22. Some people think it's like 1917. In any event, if you try to find a 1917 Boston store, for example, get a Hall of Famer in that set, and it's going to cost you several $100s easily, if not $1,000. Whereas if you grab a card from the same era of soccer or even cricket, you're probably going to pay $20, if not more, of a really great player, or even a Hall of Famer, would be a future Hall of Famer at that point because they're still playing. But you guys get what I'm trying to say there. Um, they're both really interesting sports to me. I don't know everything about them, which is one of the reasons why I collect them and I research as much as I can on how to actually play these games. I played soccer when I was a kid. I don't know anyone who really didn't, but I wasn't very good at it. I really thought that during the pandemic I wasn't going to get back into cards. I never quit, but there was a certain point in time during the pandemic that I kind of like stepped back when my one of my friends had passed away unexpectedly, and then I really wasn't sure if I wanted to continue to collect vintage cards or get in the hobby altogether because, quite frankly, this can be a little bit of a lonely journey collecting sports cards, especially online. A lot of times I would go to shows and it would be awesome, and then all of a sudden the pandemic hits and the shows are closed. There's no more shows. So what do you do? I wasn't really ready to hang it up. There was a part of me that did want to, but that's when I found another way to collect, I guess. And I started to research a lot more about cricket. I remembered that a buddy of mine who was in the Air Force said that he had seen a lot of cricket matches, and then that got me to thinking about soccer. So at the same time, I started to collect soccer and cricket, and I haven't looked back. I think it was a great reprieve from trying to collect baseball and basketball and all your mainstream sports. Well, they're mainstream here in the United States. Outside of the United States, soccer and cricket are the biggest sports in the world. Um, but they don't really have a really big following here in the States because we have football and baseball. And I'd say football is actually, I'm talking American football now. Football is actually, I think, overtaken baseball as the national pastime, which is wild to me. So, what's really great about collecting vintage soccer and vintage cricket cards is that you can do so on the cheap. It's not going to break the bank for the most part. You do have both your soccer players and your cricket stars that will they will crack the bank. They may put a couple of dents in it, but for the most part, I think you can still build a really nice collection of both. And I would not hesitate to pick up a card of his. You guys could probably do so for under $20. In fact, it's still going to be a little bit of a challenge because you're going to probably most likely get this particular card and others like it from England, from overseas, and so you are going to find that they are a little bit expensive, but it's still not going to break the bank. You guys can put together a great collection of vintage soccer cards and vintage cricket cards, mostly on the cheap. So, anyway, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think about Sam Hardy, his career. If you have any of his cards, let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys have and hear your stories. So, until the next time, I will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.